Hi everyone, welcome to another video about New Zealand immigration. Today we're going to be talking about the entrepreneur work visa. It's going to be a two-part video. The first part I'm going to be talking about the work visa stage of the entrepreneur visa, and in the second video I'll go on to talk about residence. So stay tuned. We're going to talk about the investment required, the point system, how it all works, the time frame, what you can expect, and then in the second video we'll go on to talk about how this can convert into residence. Now, many people don't know that New Zealand actually still has a work visa that leads towards residence based on self-employment. Obviously, if you have a job offer with a company in New Zealand, you can apply for a work visa based on the job offer, and you can become a resident if you meet the criteria for a skilled migrant category or otherwise. But what about self-employment? What about working for yourself? So the entrepreneur category is specifically designed for self-employment. And I'm going to explain how it works. There are four sort of basic key requirements of the visa. There's capital investment required. There's the requirement for a business plan, that you actually have a plan for your business and how it's going to work. You have to satisfy the points system. You have to have enough points, and you have to meet health and character, which are general requirements, as well as English, these basic requirements. So I'm going to deal with these one by one. First of all, the capital investment. Now, the minimum capital investment for the entrepreneur category is 100,000 New Zealand dollars. This is not very much. It's in US dollars, maybe about 60,000 US dollars. Now, the reason why it's 100,000 is because this category was set up decades ago. Okay, and decades ago, $100,000, you could do something with this in New Zealand. Today, you can't really do too much in New Zealand with $100,000. I'll just give you an example. If you wanted to buy a Subway franchise business, you're spending $300,000 or $400,000, maybe $500,000. If you want to set up a retail business, you might even spend this $100,000 just in your initial fit out, and maybe not even enough for that. So we usually recommend to people that although $100,000 is the minimum requirement, you really should be looking at having a bit more money. And we like to work with people who have at least $300,000 to $500,000 New Zealand dollars available, because we just understand business in New Zealand, and generally speaking, you're going to need a little bit of capital to get started. And that's going to become more self-evident when we go on to talk about the business plan and points. Now, having said that, of course, you may have a business plan that requires only $100,000. This is totally fine. And if you're the type of entrepreneur that can get something off the ground running with very little capital, then all power to you. That can work as well. But let's go on and talk about the business plan. This is fundamental and core to the entire process of an entrepreneur work visa. And the reason is that Immigration New Zealand has built this entrepreneur category on the idea that you will first propose what your business will be. Then, of course, they grant you an approval so that you can then begin doing the business. And when we talk later on about the residence stage, they will be comparing the success of your business while running it in New Zealand with your original business plan and how you proposed to set up. So the business plan needs to be quite detailed. It has to be in line with the immigration policy and what they're expecting. They want to see that your proposed business will benefit the country in some way. They're looking for either some sort of high growth business, which will generate increased revenue and turnover taxes. They're looking for innovation, whether it's an innovative business, or they're looking for something that could have export potential. What is innovation? What is export potential? Well, also, what is high growth? Because these are the three things. So high growth actually is defined as anything that could generate a reasonable return. You might make 1% on your money in the bank, and they consider that high growth in some ways. But generally speaking, what they're looking for is an increase of revenue, an increase of business, an increase in sales. Innovation is something that's not so easy to define, but of course, when you look up the dictionary definition of this word, it relates to this idea of something new, something that's novel, right? So maybe you have an idea for a tech business that's a special app or an AI, that does something new. Maybe you found some robot technology that can help the farming industry, something that's innovative. Or the third option is export potential. Export potential means that you might be producing something in New Zealand that can actually export, because of course that will help to bring money into New Zealand. So these are the things they're looking for in your business plan. And as long as you can satisfy a business immigration specialist officer at Immigration New Zealand that your business plan will fit into one of those criteria, then it can be acceptable. So the next thing we talk about is the points system. Now, the points system for this category and for most of the categories in New Zealand that have points, it's not the case that the more points you claim, the better chance you have of being approved. It's something like a vessel or a cup that once the cup is filled with water, any water just overflows. Essentially, we just have to reach the number of points, and that's enough, and you can be approved based on that. The points criteria for the entrepreneur visa is 120, and it is made up of various things, including your age, your level of work experience, your level of capital investment, how many New Zealanders you'll propose to employ in new full-time positions. And when we assess your business plan and what you're trying to do, obviously we shape and structure the points claim in a way that suits you. In many cases, somebody might be of an advanced age and have a lower capital investment and maybe not so much work experience, and they need to boost their points in some way. So we look to some other bonus points. For example, if you set up your business outside Auckland, this is worth 40 points, which is quite attractive. They're trying to involve more and more entrepreneurship in the regions of New Zealand. So there's 40 bonus points available if you set up your business in a city outside of Auckland, which is New Zealand's main centre. It's not New Zealand's capital. The capital of New Zealand is Wellington, by the way, but Auckland is essentially our commercial centre. It's the largest city. 2 million people live there, and most of the businesses are operating out of Auckland. So if you can consider to set up outside Auckland, there's a benefit for you. Now, the final criteria are things that are general to every application for a visa, and that is health, character, English language. There's a lower English language requirement for this category than there are for skilled migrant categories. But in terms of health and character, there's a strict hardline approach. They are looking for your police records from any country that you are that you hold citizenship, or where you've lived for a certain number of years. They're looking for also medical testing. They're obviously bloods, chest X-rays, etc., etc. In the case where somebody does not meet the health or character requirements, there is an option for looking at a waiver. Waivers are not so simple. Character waivers, if you have very minor criminal offending from back in your youth, can be potentially waived, but serious offending or serious medical conditions, very hard to get these waived. This is something that you would need specialist assistance with from a lawyer, immigration advisor, someone who really knows what they're talking about. Not impossible, but it's a complex thing. So talking about lawyers and advisors, let's discuss the process. Okay, the process for preparing, applying, lodging, and getting your entrepreneur work visa through to the point where you're ready to apply for residence. So the first step is to prepare the application, and that's when we prepare the business plan. A good lawyer and advisor will work with you closely on a business plan, discussing with you about your personal circumstances, what you can and can't do, and what's likely to work. Please be careful that when you prepare a business plan, if you make a big claim that you're going to have $10 million revenue in the first year and you're going to hire 10 New Zealanders and you're going to invest all this money, Immigration New Zealand may approve you based on that. But later on in the video, or in the next video, especially when we talk about residence, what you'll find out is that it's crucial that you are realistic in your business plan. Because if you make overinflated claims of what you are going to do in your plan, they may approve that first work visa, but then later on, when you don't meet those claims, they can decline your residence. So be very careful. It has to be a realistic business plan. The process to prepare that application could take many months, working with a lawyer or advisor. And then once we submit that application through the online system, it can actually take 8, 9 months, 10 months, maybe up to a year to process. Sometimes less, sometimes more. But you generally need to expect that from the day that you decide to go ahead with something until the day that you get that first approval allowing you to come into New Zealand on a work visa could be about a year or more. Because the second step after we've lodged the application is that approval in principle. Now, the approval in principle is what's not called an approval in principle. Essentially what it is, it's the approval of that first 12 months open visa, which then is granted to you for the purpose of allowing you to come into New Zealand, to bring your money, liquidate any assets that you had, bring your money in, invest your money, set up your company, engage with your lawyers and advisors and accountants to set up your business and the company, and then start trading. As long as you have done or taken steps towards setting up your business and bringing your money into the country in that first 12 months, you can then go for the next step, which is to apply for the balance of the work visa. And it's called the balance because the initial work visa stage is essentially a 3-year visa stage. So the balance is the remaining 2 years. So prepare, lodge, a year or so later, get an approval. You've got a 12-month window to bring your money, set up the business, and then you get a further 2 years to stay in New Zealand. Now, during that entire process, of course, you're allowed to bring your family, partner, children. School-aged children go to school for free, and a partner would be granted a work visa that is also an open visa that they can take up employment anywhere. And the reason they give you the 12 months first is because they want to make sure that you actually will come into the country and set up your business properly before granting you the rest. Right? Okay, so what we've now done is we've talked about the beginning till end stage of this entrepreneur work visa. The next thing is to talk about residence, and I'll do that in a separate video, which you can all follow the link. We'll probably paste it here somewhere on YouTube. But now I'm going to tell you about a few tips that I have that if you're considering this category, these are crucial to consider and think about before starting. Number one, do your own research. Okay. Now, of course, we always say it's great to talk to professionals, but a professional is only going to be able to help you as much as you know how to help yourself. You should really try to understand the process as much as you possibly can yourself, so that the professionals that you work with, whether it's us or anyone else, can actually work with you properly. You want to research not only about the category for the visa, about New Zealand, you want to research and do your own learning about your own profile. What type of business could actually work for you? You may have run your own business in your home country for a number of years and it's very successful, but that type of business may not actually be suitable for the New Zealand market. Or it could be the case that it's a suitable business, but you're not ready for it because it's an entirely different market. So we do see that sometimes where people are bringing their own business concept into New Zealand, wonderful business, very successful in the home country, but in New Zealand it's different environment altogether and it might not be as suitable. So do your research about New Zealand, the New Zealand market. You really should try to understand what that is. The second tip I have is regarding the business planning. This is the most crucial element of the entrepreneur work visa. The business plan needs to be robust, clear, simple, straightforward, and it has to be something that you can follow through on. If you are not able to follow through on that business plan, your entire residency goals will fall apart, and it can lead to many, many years of difficulty and high-cost lawyers to solve the problem for you. You really need to make sure that whatever business plan you come up with is suitable for you, suitable for New Zealand, right? Don't be too ambitious, but at the same time, make sure that whatever you do plan is going to meet the requirements for the residency in the future. My final tip, which is also probably the biggest tip that I always tell everybody, is that my advice is to get advice. Okay, my advice to you is to make sure that you get advice from the right people. Friends and family are always very well-meaning. Google is a good friend sometimes, but the best advice that you can get is the advice that makes sense to you, that you understand, that has come from a licensed professional, right? So if you talk to a licensed professional, whether that's a lawyer, an advisor, and you don't quite get what they're saying, that's not good advice, right? It might be good advice what they're saying, but if you don't understand it, how is it good? You need to then talk to a next person, find out what they're saying, and if they say to you something that makes sense and you understand it and you can get through it, then that's good advice. So my advice is to get advice. And I guess finally, what I would say to you all is good luck, and consider this as a sort of in some way a warning that this category may not last forever, but it is still currently available. It's open and ready for new applications. If you want to talk to us, get in touch. We'll have some links in the description, and ka kite anō.